Kids, we are live here on Substack on this another live edition of the George Hahn Show. I think that's what I should just call the whole thing, not the George Hahn podcast or it's all like whether I'm on YouTube, whether I'm on Instagram, or here on Substack. It's all part of the George Hahn Show, right? I don't know why. Anyway, this is going to also be part of the podcast, which I think I'll just rebrand as the George Hahn Show. This is what happens, you guys, when you're working on your own and you don't have a staff. Anyway, did you see, happy Tuesday, did anybody see that horrible clip from the absolutely horrible Megyn Kelly about how basically Freddie deserved to get shot? Like he was, yeah. She really seems to be gunning for Kristi Noem's tiara. For her status as the worst woman in America. Megyn Kelly is trying to steal Kristi Noem's worst woman in America tiara. That's clearly what is happening here. Kind of amazing. Anyway, another thing that I want to address. First of all, thank you all for subscribing, especially to those of you who are paid subscribers. I am also in the process of making things easier for my supporters who I'm moving over from Patreon. And I'm essentially going to just not have paywalls or restrictions around anybody. Like all subscribers are going to have the same privileges for a while. And then later on, once those Patreon annual subscriptions start, expire, I can start doing some exclusive content because I don't want to, I think I made the migration a little clumsily. Anyway, so thanks for joining me on today's George Hahn Show. I got to skedaddle in a little bit. I have a doctor's appointment, checking my cholesterol, which I'm very excited about. I've been on Lipitor for a while, and I think it's going to be pretty good. Like, I've been pretty good about low cholesterol eating, although we shall see. So that appointment's in a while, and then right around the corner from my doctor is Zabar's. And this is dumb. All right. So yesterday I published a piece here on Substack about, how I'm trying to eat well and, do all the things. I discovered, you guys, this is dumb, but maybe not. I'm trying to eat really healthy, whole foods, like none of the ultra processed. That's the word that was eluding me. None of the ultra processed foods, but keeping foods as whole as possible, like a whole orange and nothing processed. Anyway, one of my favorite breakfasts, which is really lunch because I'm not a breakfast person. I don't eat until like noon. So I just ate. This is like 15 minutes ago. And the Familia, the Swiss company that makes the Swiss muesli, it's like particle board. It's like pulverized particle board, Swiss muesli, although it's very healthy, but it's like, you got to add shit to it. The cereal company, Familia, they're Swiss, makes this thing called Protein Crunch or some shit. It is so good. So it's Protein Crunch with rolled whole grains, super seeds, and honey. It's a great source of fiber. It is plant-based, 10 grams of protein. All right. It is all the things I like. And in the ingredients, it's nothing weird. Everything I can pronounce and identify, everything in the list of ingredients. Whole grain rolled oats, wheat flakes, plant-based protein Krispies, which are made from pea protein, wheat protein, and tapioca starch. All right, that's the weirdest element. From there, we've got sugar, not my fave, sunflower oil, sunflower seeds. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's boring. Anyway, it's natural stuff. And it is so loaded with goodness in terms of nutritional content. Anyway, I am going to go get some of that at Zabar's because Fresh Direct is not included in their offerings for delivery. What else do I want to talk about today? Yeah, it is pretty incredible to me. Like the more I think about what's going on, you guys, let's never forget that Alex Preddy and Renee Good were two people who were exercising their First Amendment rights of free speech. They were not breaking any laws. And the US government murdered them on the street. They were not breaking any laws. And yet, the US government, Donald Trump's goon squad, is trying to paint them as dangerous. This is bad. So anyway, Bovino was taken out to the professional proverbial woodshed. Kristi Noem next. She going under the bus next, but this is all on Trump. Stephen Miller, yeah, this is all on Trump. So as I articulated yesterday, call your representatives or email your representatives in their respective offices, as I've done, and march and get. I think getting loud on social media does have an impact. I do think it is a place now where government officials look to get a temperature on what things. So I don't think like posting your feelings and sharing things that that sort of align with your values. I don't think that's for nothing, really. But it's also nothing is more important than voting and, marching or, protesting. It's important. TikTok, under this weird collective of American owners, has gotten very strange and it has received nothing but complaints. I have, as I speak, actually, let me look at this and see how many TikTok followers I actually have. And I will tell you what I am going to be walking away from here. Let's see. George Hahn, view profile. 387.3 thousand followers I am about to walk away from. That sucks. I never loved it. Oddly, I always treated, in terms of my platforms, whether we're talking about like what Twitter I used to be on, or YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, which I love. I think Blue Sky is kind of like the quiet underdog in my favorites category. But because I think it's just like Twitter, a fraction of the audience, but it's got the same kind of tools and all of that. Anyway, TikTok, I always never felt like I was a part of it. I always felt like I always felt like a tourist or a visitor there. I never felt like I really belonged in the TikTok community. So I never felt, I don't know, hard to describe. I never cared about it. Chuck here says, for some reason, I'm still on X. Chuck, I don't understand, but you do you, buddy. TikTok is for kids. TikTok nailed that algorithm, and for a while it was super fun. I get it. And Instagram, Meta, whatever, has done an amazing job replicating that for what do they call it? Reels on Instagram, which has been great. And you know what else I enjoy is YouTube Shorts, for what it's worth. But TikTok, anyway, I'm going to be deleting that. Is my point. I'm getting rid of it, and that's okay with me. So, 9 minutes into our live here, onto this installment of the George Hahn Show. And I also wanted to touch upon, this has nothing to do with anything other than I was just thinking about it. Because I saw some post on Curbed, part of New York Magazine, about this building that's getting some hype downtown along the Hudson River, along, oh God, I forget, Clarkson Street. And it is apparently, I guess it's much hyped or whatever, and it's a large building, in this luxury moment. And it got me thinking about how, when I lived in Cleveland, the short time I lived in downtown Cleveland for 2 years before moving back to New York, at the beginning of 2020. I was downtown Cleveland at the end of 2017. So 2017, 2018, 2019, I was in this apartment in downtown Cleveland. And this building was this developer, this guy named Neil Vinny. It runs a development company in Cleveland called the Dallad Group. And they owned and ran a bunch of apartment buildings in Cleveland, still do. And Neil Vinny, the head, he and his wife, lovely wife Amy, are huge art collectors and real supporters of Cleveland's local art scene. And they've got, they have tremendous collections of it. Anyway, so he bought these warehouses, these interconnected warehouses that were renovated. They were like 110 years old. The George Worthington Company. And he had owned them and was sitting on them for a long time. And finally, when he got the right money to do it the right way, had them converted beautifully into these apartments. And I was one of the first tenants in it. Only the fourth and fifth floors were open, the top two floors, when they opened. And I was one of the first tenants to move in. And there was art on every floor in all the common areas. When you got off the elevator, there was a gallery on the lobby level. They had art, and this amazing curator, Liz Morgan, she still does the art curation. Anyway, and then there was like the lounge area and the bar area and the courtyards. We had a couple of courtyards, and they were like works of landscaping art. It was really beautiful. A sophisticated, expressive, creative oasis in the middle of downtown Cleveland. I don't know how else to describe it. We had all the amenities but a swimming pool. We had a gym, roof deck, the parking garage, because driving's a thing in Cleveland, whatever. Yeah. So anyway, the whole reason Neil, our developer, my landlord, did this is because he wanted to foster community among the residents. I think in total, the building had like 95 units, ranging from, there were no studios. There were only large one bedrooms going up to, I think there was a couple of three bedrooms in there. And each bedroom had its own bathroom. Anyway, like 95 units or something in the building. And he wanted a sense of community among the residents, almost like a Barbary Lane from Armistead Maupin's Tales of the City, like a real community among the residents. And I have to be honest with you, in the 2 years that I lived there, it really felt like that. The only reason I left was because I got an opportunity to come to New York, and I missed New York terribly. But if I were a Clevelander and really was going to stay in Cleveland, I'd still be there. That community, the building was great. The amenities were sick. But there was this really lovely community among the residents that Neil and his wonderful wife, Amy, and their art-loving whole agenda, they wanted to get people together. So we would have a new art show in the gallery, and there would be a party to celebrate it, and there would be wine and cocktails and hors d'oeuvres and stuff. And it was like all the residents. And if you wanted to invite someone, fantastic, bring people over. Like, it was so good. And that doesn't exist, as far as I know, in a building here in New York. I'm sure it does, but I've never been in on it. I've never observed it or been a part of it. But I had a good, for the most part, there were some people who lived in the building, they kind of kept to themselves and they didn't get involved in the whole scene, and that's fine. But I would say in that building, it was a 5-floor, as I said, converted warehouse building. We weren't strangers, like as neighbors, like we all kind of knew one another, like at least to identify and say hello. And it was all friendly. And this manifested within, I was only there in the first 2 years of this building's existence as a residential space. And it was nice. And I got to thinking about that today. And one of the things that keeps us living longer is a sense of community. There's, eating well, there's exercise, there is a sense of purpose, but also a sense of community. And I would say, and this was part of Neil's mission and vision with this building, with this apartment complex, is that he wanted to foster a sense of community. And he really kind of succeeded with it. And I always admired him for that. And if I'm in Cleveland and if I ever run into him again, I want to bring that to his attention or maybe I'll drop him a note. Was rent reasonable? Let me just give you a taste. You can go to the website, actually. If you go to the website, if you live in Cleveland or if you're going to move to Cleveland, get an apartment in this building. It's called Worthington Yards. I think it's worthingtonyards.com. I lived there. It was great. That was the real hard part about leaving Cleveland and coming back to New York, is that I knew that I would never have that situation. Granted, I'm a real New Yorker at heart. I miss New York and I love being here, but my rent, just to give you an idea, my rent for a 1-bedroom and then I gotta go. My rent for 1-bedroom, it was just under 1,000 square feet. It was like 970 some square feet, 980 some square feet. 13-foot ceilings, 8-foot windows, and I had a view of Lake Erie. I was probably about 300 yards from the water. Everything was new. Washer and dryer in the unit. There was no window in the bedroom, but that was okay. That made sleeping like I got great sleep in that windowless bedroom. Solid, because it was a warehouse. I could probably have played racquetball in my apartment and my neighbor wouldn't have heard it. Like, solid. So 13-foot ceilings, 8-foot windows, all new appliances, washer, dryer, dishwasher, microwave. I love the electric stovetop with a ceramic surface. It was so good. It was like clean and everything. We had a roof deck. We had a gym. There is a lounge on the ground, like the lobby floor, with like booths and sofas and chairs and desks, or not desks, but tables. And you could do work. You could have a conversation. You could have a little gathering. People had meetings, like business meetings in our lounge. We had a bar that you could rent out or reserve, rather, for parties and bring in a bartender. We had 2 outdoor courtyards. One was for humans and the other one was for dogs. And we had 3 fire pits. There were grills. There was gorgeous landscaping. There were parking garages. The lighting in the courtyard at night was like stunning. All right. And hold on. There was a relationship we had with D.O. Summers Dry Cleaner, and they would provide you, when you created an account with them, they would provide you with a hook that you would put on your door, and they gave you the bag. I still have the laundry bag. I still use it. We had it was like a mailbox on the ground floor near our mailboxes where we'd pick up our packages, and you would put your laundry in that bag because your tag was on it, and put it in that that deposit box. And they would bring your dry cleaning back the next day and hang it on your door. Okay. My rent, drum roll please, was in 2018 and 2019. My rent was $1,475 for all of that in downtown Cleveland. I'm sure it's more now. It might be up to $1,600, maybe even anything under $2,000 for all of that is a steal. It was a good situation. It was a really good situation. I think the young Clevelanders who were being subsidized by their parents, like this was their first apartment, I was just like, oh my God, you guys are spoiled. You have no idea how good you have it. You have no idea how good this is. They didn't understand it. But Worthington Yards, if I lived in Cleveland again, or if I were to get a little pied-à-terre in my hometown, which if I ever came into money, like would be something I would consider because I love my hometown, I would consider renting again in that building. It was that good. Like, oh, I should get a little apartment in downtown Cleveland. And I want to go back to Worthington Yards. It was so fucking good. Anyway, that all said, add that to the fact that there was a real community of people there, because of that art world that Neil Vinny, and also Neil was like, Neil and his wife, Amy, no shit, were like, they were so plugged into the creative community in Cleveland. Yes, very successful people. They made like, all this money running this empire, but they were good with it. They weren't gross about it. Aren't. Present tense. They're still doing it. And I love them. Love them. Good Clevelanders, good people, good citizens, good landlords, great landlords. God, loved giving them my money every month. I'm like, here, loved it. Anyway, um, may all of you find a living situation that was that good, that kind of communal living situation. It was wonderful. I look upon that memory of that time with great fondness. So this was my 980 square foot apartment in downtown Cleveland, baby. All right. Anyway, that's it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. That's my 20 minutes. I'm out. Thanks for joining me for this live edition of the George Hahn Show. Fuck it. Let's just call it that. And hang in there. Kevin Fennessy. I know you. Who else is here? Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thank you guys so much. And I will talk to you tomorrow. All right. Be good.